goaltender.
Dave Hunter, welcome, guys. Welcome to Coach's Corner. April 7th, Wednesday. We've got some great people here, and we've got some great people on board, and so awesome to see Brad Cole. We got lots to be thankful for today. I know it's been a number of months since we have had Coach's Corner together. And in that, we've got 3 leaders sharing with us. And the theme is the car ride home and the plane ride home. Coach Ryan Walter, as we all know, has had a chance to not just play at an NHL level, Stanley Cup winner, but also coach at an NHL level. He's going to share some experiences about the plane ride home and how we can learn together. I think part of it is growing our emotional intelligence as we listen to each other. We want to open the Zoom call at the end for some Q&A. So we're looking at about an hour and 25 minutes together. Joe Lobendahn is also going to join us. I don't think he's clicked on. Oh, here's clicked on. Yeah, he's on. He's had a chance to play as a linebacker for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He played Division I for Washington, the Detroit Lions also. He had signed with them, where he's going to share about the car ride home, some different experiences with his dad, and learning the ropes as a linebacker. We all know Joe's got a very good reputation as a pro. And thirdly, Daryl Baxandall is going to share. Daryl Baxandall is a fellow professional, currently works for Petronas, but has been able to raise 3 world-class kids with his wife, Coeur d'Alene. They're happily married, and we're really excited to listen to all 3. Coach Cole, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but to keep with the routine, are you able to say a quick word of prayer? And then Ryan Walter is going to start us off.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, John. Yeah, Heavenly Father, we love you, and we thank you that we can gather together over Zoom. I just pray a blessing over the guys that are going to share with us tonight, that they would, there'd be wisdom in their words, and that you would bless their words and just bless all of our time together, Lord. We thank you for your goodness. In Jesus' name, amen.
Ryan, the mic's all yours, my friend.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brad. Thanks so much for that. I've got some great memories of and I love John's theme here of the car ride home. And maybe we'll split it into a couple of directions. So there's the car ride to the rink, right? And then there's the car ride home. And my mom and dad, my father taught me and basically coached me for a long time in minor hockey. And that's what I remember. I remember, my dad was, an old Albertan that loved to play hockey and, ended up coming to Vancouver to work for BC Tel. And I remember those drives, it was, I think maybe it's a teenage thing, and maybe you guys will agree with me or not, but when you have your teenager in the front seat over here and you're driving to the game, you're both looking ahead, and it's the best discussion, isn't it? Where you don't have to look in any eyes, right? And the kids are just sort of focused in, and every once in a while they squeak out something. But those were great memories. I remember Trail, British Columbia, Pee Wee Championship for British Columbia. And we're in the final game. We've got a pretty good team. We're in the final game to win the BCs. And we have a good game and we win. And so we jump in the car. So mom and dad were there. And at this point, I have 3 other siblings, and they were offloaded to grandma and grandpa. So it was just mom and dad and me up in Trail. And I had a pretty good game. I think we won 5-something, the final game. And I was fortunate to get 3 of the 5 goals. So I'm a cocky little peewee, right? and I'm sitting in the back seat, and I throw my stuff in the trunk. Remember the days when we had trunks? And I'm sitting in the back seat, and mom and dad are getting to the front seats, and they're sort of, looks like they might say something to me. They're gonna sort of look back, and I'm thinking, I'm a cocky little peewee. I'm thinking, whoa, they've got to be pretty proud of their son today. And in unison, mom and dad together looked back at me, big smile, and they said, boy, did the team ever play well today? What do you mean the team? I got 3 of 5 goals, right? You know what my mom and dad said in those car rides home and to the rink, was such a powerful influencer, right? In that moment, they probably told me everything, right, coaches, that I needed to know for life. Boy, did the team play well tonight. And I love that. I love the way that they sensed that words are important, right? And I think that's a theme. You guys know, Jenny and I do a lot of leadership development. We're really fixated on language these days, and really fixated on words, right? Isn't it beautiful in John chapter 1, right? He's the word. Like the word is in, why is Jesus the word? I mean, words are everything. And I just think that this focus that you guys are talking about today, the car ride home, is all about words. I saw something the other day, and maybe this will help you as a coach, maybe it won't. I love this thought from a leadership book I was reading, that one of the things that we track a lot of things in culture, right? You track energy. Elaine Vigneault, I asked Elaine, the head coach, when I got a chance to coach with the Canucks, I said, Elaine, what's the number one thing that an NHL head coach focuses on? And I'm thinking he's going to talk about structure, maybe skill, who you're going to put on the ice. He didn't say any of that. He said, the number one thing an NHL head coach focuses on is the energy of his team. And, when I think of energy, I think of words, right? Words create energy. Words create focus. So there's this leadership book, and they talked about, I love this thought, share of voice. If you've been in business at all, and I know Barrett's owned a business and others, we all talk about share of wallet, right? But what about the share of voice? That's a pretty good indicator around the type of leadership style that you have, and the type of culture that you're developing on your team, right? Who gets to speak? And does the quiet kid over in the corner never get to speak? And so share a voice. So on that way home, I don't know why my mom and dad did it, but they allowed, there was good share of voice, and it was always that words counted. And that was a powerful piece. On planes, coming home, I don't know if you're like me, but if I have a good game, if I have a bad game, I like to sort of just let it sink in as a player. And then this is me, and this is, you'll have different players on your team, but I need a quick distraction. And so I used to actually carry a computer with me back in the old days, and I'd be programming, or I'd be doing something on the computer. Guys used to think I was wacko, right? They're playing cards in the back, and Craig Ludwig's coming up front. The only reason he comes to me is he says, Wally, can I have your beer? Right? Like, that's the only reason he wanted to come to me. Or I needed a good book, right? For me on the plane home, it was a time to sort of just let things sink in. Good game, bad game, whatever. And then I needed a little bit of a distraction. So I don't know if you have people like that. 2 more thoughts. Daniel Kahneman, and I don't know if you've done any reading. Kahneman is this amazing scientist, and he's done a lot of neuroscience stuff. And they've come to find now that science is giving us something, I think, that's very valuable as a coach, when you think of, the car ride home, the plane ride home, and let's add a piece, right? From a coaching perspective, the bus ride home. And here's what he gives us. And I thought this is powerful. They have a little, he calls it a rule, but it's a process. And he calls it the peak end rule. So peak end rule. In every conversation, in almost every conversation that we have, the remembering self in our brain remembers two things. Okay, it remembers the peak of the conversation. So that for people, it could be different, right? Could be a positive peak. It could be a negative peak. So they remember the peak, and then guess what? They remembered the end. We've known that all our lives, haven't we? But isn't it good to know that science is sort of proving that out? So what's the peak, right? Do we plan the peak as a coach? And then how do we end? And we've been really challenging leaders, especially in corporate America, around two things, right? How do people leave conversations with you? And how do people leave your meetings? Right? Those are the remembering spots. And when I think of that, the reason I bring it up is I remember, and my mom and dad were not perfect people, but I remember that the end was often very positive, right? Or it was neutral. It was, go get them. It was very, very seldom negative. And I'm very thankful for that. I don't know why. I don't know why they did those things, but I'm very thankful for that. Finally, Danny Belial, an old coach, my first coach in the NHL. I'm in my first game in Chicago, and he taps me on the shoulder. We've got 2 minutes to go in the game, and the face-off's in our zone, and he taps me on the shoulder, and he says, "Go get that face-off, kid." Wow, right? Made my confidence, right? And I went out, and you guys are going to love this. Some of you are so young, you need to Google Stan Mikita. Right? You got to Google him. What a great face-off guy. And so he was out there, and I just tied up his stick, tied it, and we tied the face-off, and we tied the game. That was a big deal for Washington because we didn't win very much. So about 15, 16, 17 years later, I meet Danny Belial up in the old building in Detroit. He's now scouting for Detroit. And Danny, how you doing, buddy? Hey, Danny, do you remember when you tapped me on the shoulder and you said, "Hey, go get that face off, kid"? And he said, yeah, I remember that, Ryan. And I said, Danny, when I think of you as a coach, like that really early in my NHL career, that helped to show me that I could play at this level, that I had confidence at this level. And Danny looked at me, big smile. He's a funny little smile. He looked at me. He said, "Ryan, I made a mistake." I said, "What do you mean you made a mistake? I tied the face off. Like, everything's good. Like we tied the game." He said, No, it wasn't you. He said, "I would do that again. I'd put you out to take that face off again, but I made a mistake." He said, "When I put you out as a 22-year-old centerman to take that face off, I took off a 36-year-old Guy Chiron. And when I made your confidence, I ruined his." Here's Danny Belial, guys. Isn't it true as coaches? 20 years later, still thinking about the moves that he made. He said, "What I should have done is I should have left Guy out on the wing, pulled that winger off, and let you take the face off. And I could have accomplished both things." So I think when you look at sort of this idea of memories, right? Like what, and I've been sort of learning from Conifman a little bit. We've got our thinking self, we've got our remembering self. And as we're coaching the bus and we're coaching the car and we're coaching on the plane, if that's where you're at, or maybe, it's just me as a parent, is what is the peak? Right? What's the peak of the conversation? Do we plan that? And then what is the end? Right? How do we end? And here's Danny Belial years later, still thinking. He hasn't ended it yet, has he? He's still thinking about those things that he wishes he did. So I want to thank you for just, let's move on to the other guys, and love to answer some questions at the end. But really love your idea of the car ride home, the bus ride home, the plane ride home, and just this idea of how much influence we have in that car, both on a, you know, as a parent, both on a, obviously a very positive note, and then secondly, you know, on a very negative note. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Coach. Awesome to have you on, Coach Ryan Walter. Also awesome to have another Stanley Cup winner with us, Dave Hunter. So many awesome people on this Zoom call. And it just makes me think how each day, whatever might be there for us, how we can look at it as a gift. You know, I was thinking about an hour before this call, and I actually had a few butterflies in the stomach, and almost felt like, you know, I was going to the rink for a game. And it's exciting when we can be around people that we not just respect, but that we want to learn from. And, you know, I see Blake Mahan on here, and he's got a real cool movement going with Thrive Sport Projects, where he's empowering so many families and youth teams around mental health. And again, that's the purpose of these Zoom calls, to where we can listen, learn, and hopefully help each other become better. Let's remember, getting better is not automatic. And next up is a friend. Joe and I have had a chance to cross paths on the Plus 15. I think he's a world-class, not just human, but salesman. He works for A&B Pipelines. They just won a beauty. And he's had a chance to play the game of football at the highest level. And I'm all ears. Joe, the mic is yours, and we really look forward to listening to you.
You're on mute, Joe.
Did we lose Joe for a sec? I'll just give Joe a quick call here, guys. He might be just looking here on the side if he's jumped off. 2 seconds here, guys. Hey, bud, I think you're on mute right now. Okay. Hey, it's all good, my friend. It's all good. We'll be with you in about 60 seconds. Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't on my side where I had to unmute, but he's just going into his settings. Before Joe jumps on, maybe someone has one question for Ryan before Joe starts, just from something Ryan shared about the plane ride home, the car ride home, in these next couple of minutes while we wait for Joe. Does someone have a question for Coach Ryan?
Hey, Ryan. That was a great talk. Lots of good stuff there. But my question is actually what year were you in the Pee Wee Provincials here in Trail? I live in Trail, so. And who did you play? Did you beat Trail? Oh, you're muted too. Tell him, John.
Thanks.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, that was that might have been Burnaby Winter Club, and it was probably about 100 years ago. Long time ago. Wow. But I loved playing hockey in Trail. That was when you're in minor hockey, you know, that was just crazy good, wasn't it? To play up in Trail. Hi, Dave. How's Dave doing?
Good.
Good.
Yeah. How are you been doing, Ryan?
Really good. Really good. You're not as old as me, so everything's good, buddy.
I think I am. What do you know?
I think I just turned 83.
83. I feel like that. I wasn't myself in the old days, right?
Actually, maybe my right knee feels 83, Dave. How's that?
Yeah. Jeez. Well, that's good. You're still out of BC, are you, right?
Yep, we are. We're just in White Rock, just south of Vancouver.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And John, you just kick us off here when Joe's back. So
Oh, I love it, guys. This is great. Nothing better than a campfire discussion. Guys, well, Joe is live. It's all yours, my friend.
All right. Thank you, John, for the introduction. Hey, hi, everyone. Just a little bit about myself. Born and raised in Hawaii. Played all sports growing up, baseball, football, wrestling, track and field. And just kind of gravitated to football just because I thought that would be a better opportunity for me to get ahead in life, to gain a scholarship to any university in the US and to continue my education. So the topic is, the ride back home. And so growing up, a little bit more about my background is I'm Samoan, German. You don't find that everywhere, but so Pacific Islander and German. And we grew up with a lot of respect and respecting your elders. And you could never, as a kid, you could never question your elders or your parents, or even ask them why. Or else you'll just get slapped, right? So, so I got a lot of beatings growing up, just because I had to learn from my mistakes and questioning my parents, because I thought I knew better, and I didn't. But you don't realize, and you learn at a older age where you look back and say, you know what, that was really dumb of me. And that's the reason why your parents always tell you that as a young kid, that they know, what's best for you. So playing sports, and actually my dad was my coach my whole life. And he would never really tell me, good game, son, or anything like that. Nothing positive. And I always wonder why. I was so mad and frustrated, because I just wanted to hear my dad say and tell me, you know what, son, good game. It was always, Joe, you got to do better. You got to do better, on defense or on offense, whatever position that you're playing, you have to be better. You have to do this better. You have to read this lineman better. You have to tackle better. You got to, make sure you're running faster, or make sure that you're running at the right angle. So it was always like that my whole life growing up as a kid and as an athlete, and could never understand why he did that. And you know what, till this day, I didn't even ask him why or even like that. Because the thing is, it got me where, I wanted to be. It made me live my dream, right? So it got me where I wanted to be in the NFL, to be playing professional, to become a professional athlete. So I think that's the reason why he did that, was that he wanted to make sure that, I always got to do something better. There was always something for me to work on, to better myself as a person and also as an athlete. Right. So that kind of drove me to become who I am today. and that's what I've taken from that, from, learning that from my dad, with everything that I do in life now. There's always room for me to be a better, A and B employee. Whatever I do in life, there's always something I can do better, And my mom was always in the picture too, but she would also like never really, comfort me or anything like that. It was just kind of nonchalant, like good game, son. But like my dad was just always hard on us, and I have two older brothers, Fred and Will, and, just looking up to them and having them grow up and just kind of, wishing I was there with them kind of made me, want to play the sport, right? Because without those guys, I wouldn't be in this position. And I would always, my brother Will, who's just above me, would always tell me, Joe, whatever I'm doing wrong, like you learn from me so you can be better than me. Like you've always pushed me to be, better than him. Whatever mistakes that I've done, you do the opposite. So, I just want to thank him for that. But, my dad, like he's a lot better. Like he was just like a very disciplined guy. And now he's kind of, mellowed out a bit. And, we talk a lot of stories about like when, going back home, we'll talk about what happened and we'll just all laugh about it. So, but, I just really want to thank him for pushing me to become, a professional athlete and chasing that dream. And, for him to, live that dream with me. So, yeah. That's all I got, guys.
Joe, thanks for sharing. I know some guys are going to have some questions, and
For sure.
the journey of learning and talking about influence and people that are building into us every day. I had a chance to talk to my dad a couple hours ago. He's 85, and he's not built like you. He's a bit slighter. He's still fast, but there's still a desire in him where he would like me to become better. And isn't that interesting? The father figures in our life, or those people of influence in our life that want us to be better. We're not okay with okay. And I think, if we evaluated the many Olympic gold medal teams that Canada has crafted, the theme was the same there too. And within that, I believe that there's some sacrifice there. Like there's some pain. There's some, that was hard. But when we have that support, when we have people around us, you shared about your brother. Does that ever help within it? Third up is Daryl Baxandall. Guys, Daryl Baxandall is one of my mentors. He's got the gift of humor, but when he has a chance to speak, I learn. And he's happily married. He's breaking records every day. He's married to Coeur d'Alene, and I've had a chance to get to know his son a little bit, had a chance to coach him a bit in Drumheller, and he's got two daughters. And the car ride home is something we've talked about over some coffees together. Daryl Baxandall, too bad we can't see your face, but we look forward to listening to you. The mic is all yours.
Sounds good, John. Thanks everyone. You know what? When John was asking about doing this little talk, I really hadn't thought much of it, but Ryan brought some key points there, and I was fortunate enough to grow up and play hockey in a small town. And growing up in a small town, we, money was always tight. So when we'd go to a game, we'd get in the big Chrysler, and there'd be 3 dads in the front seat and 4 kids in the back seat, and going for an hour drive to a small town and through a snowstorm, and there wasn't really a hockey talk after the ride. It was, geez, who farted? Who farted in the back seat? We got to stop the car. you know what? And it was those, when Ryan started bringing back those memories, it was like, that's what sports was all about. Was if I, I remember some of my games back in my childhood, but it was a lot of those car rides that, bring back memories. So, and then, I started looking at, I had, like said, John said, my son played junior hockey and he played Div 1 in the US, daughter that played CIS soccer, and another daughter that played midget AAA hockey. And now they're all in their 20s. And it's kind of like, man, we don't have any of those car rides anymore after the game. And if I add them all up, it probably was 1,000 car rides where there potentially was learning opportunities, but some of it, maybe wasn't as enjoyable for them as maybe it could have been. And so you miss those days. So, a lot of the younger guys on the call, it's one of those things is, remember those types of things because they're important. But when I look back, in my early days in those car rides home, they probably had changed quite a bit from when I started to when I ended, realizing what was important to my wife and myself, because the rides home were probably just as enjoyable or painful sometimes as for the kids, but it's all part of the learning. And one of the things that I probably learned the most is when you look in your rearview mirror and you see your kids sitting in the back seat. I think Ryan said you don't have to look at each other and you could just talk. I think the rearview mirror for me was important because I started to realize, looking at the expressions on their faces when you talk to them, was this a learning opportunity? Was this just a quiet opportunity? What were they thinking? But I think what I probably learned the most out of those rides home was it's their moment. Let them talk, listen, be a listener. And I think as a parent, as a coach, we try to solve all their problems. And a lot of times they may not want their problem solved. They have to work through some of that to understand, what their stressor is, what made them successful in that game, what can they learn. And I think being able to work through some of that on their own, but be able to guide them and, maybe ask a few key questions where they can think about what they were learning. Because, we can all say, oh, did you have fun? And was it enjoyable? What did you learn? All those are things. But I think it's understanding from their point of view, how can you support them? And so that rear view mirror was important. Like you said, sometimes they had tears in their eyes, sometimes they were all smiles, and it really dictated what that conversation was going to be like. I think in today's world, I think it's a lot more difficult for parents, or maybe it's easier, or vice versa for the players, where you don't have to engage. You can put your headphones on, put your music on, and mom and dad are gone. You don't even have to listen to them at all. And I think I don't think that's a great thing. Maybe some days it is, but I think, a lot of parents are missing an opportunity to have that relationship with their kids. I think the other thing in today's players or families in that is we enable our kids to, like I said, to wear their headphones, to have, the behavior that they want, where Joe talked about his dad, what straightened him out. And I remember my dad, sometimes he was firm, but you had those conversations and I don't know if we have the same accountability today as when I was younger. Maybe we do. It just seems that, we enable, in the school system. So I'm not feeling well today. Oh, you don't have to write the test. So some of that accountability is gone. But, the things that I really stress to my kids didn't matter what they were doing, was never settle for, second best, never settle for someone, demeaning you, and, always talking to your coach and having that conversation. It's never easy having that conversation with an adult when you're a 10 or 12-year-old kid. But I think, what, you earn the respect of people, you gain the confidence that you can have some of those conversations. So like I said, that's kind of what I'm bringing to this, is that rear view mirror. It did have a lot in my kids and our family, and, never settling and giving it all. So, John, that's kind of what I want to bring to this.
That's good, Daryl. I really appreciate that. And guys, there's tough conversations too. Would we all agree? I'm not married yet, still trying to figure it out. Dating a nice girl right now. But when pressure hits, some people on this call have seen pressure at the highest level. Isn't it true that our true colors show when pressure hits us? And when we talk about emotional intelligence, maybe we can open this up for a little bit of discussion, or maybe you guys have some questions, but how are we able to take those 3 deep breaths and be patient with ourselves, and then patient with the conversation, to where we don't say things we don't mean? Like on the ice, we'll probably take an extra 2 for taking the cross check, but where is that emotional intelligence to where we're able to understand the pressure, the moment, and then rise above? Can I throw that out there, guys? Whoever wants to share or ask a question. There's just been a rich conversation here so far.
Yeah, I can go ahead. This is Joe here.
Go, Joe.
You know what? Like the pressure, I think it's like when you start from a kid and playing that sport, and you grew up to becoming that professional athlete. Like that's a lot of practice in between there, right? So as far as dealing with the pressure, I think it becomes part of you. I think, like for me, I thrive for the big plays. Like, the pressure's down, it's like 2 seconds left. I got to make this stop or else we lose the game. And I thrive for that. I take a lot of pride. I want to be that guy that makes that play. So, it makes me hungry, right? So you're practicing until game time, and like as kids, we grow up dreaming like, 3 seconds left, I'm gonna get the ball, I'm gonna score, or I'm gonna throw, take this shot and make that 3-pointer and win the game. We thrive for that, those winning, moments. And I think it becomes like embedded in us. Because we're always thinking about that, that moment where you can shine, to everyone, right? To make that last, touchdown, or to catch it, or whatever it may be, to make that last, shot. But that's my take on, with pressure. I think we were built, we build it in our kids as, when they grow up, because we're always preaching that, if that even makes sense to anyone here. So.
Yeah, it's good, Joe. It's good. I'll jump in. Ryan here. A great thought. And we've been doing some work in this area of developing mental toughness. And what we're learning is that mental toughness I always thought everybody had it, but it's a developed skill, isn't it, coaches? Like, and this idea of mental toughness, how do we play under pressure? I'll give you, John, Jenny and I have been building a little model. You guys know we like to build visuals. One of the things that I've been trying to do, especially during this time with leaders, is to just give a process that allows people to pause. Viktor Frankl says that, it's that between stimulus and response is a space. Like Viktor Frankl is one of my heroes. Between stimulus and response is a space. And that, I believe that space right now is leadership. right? It's mindfulness. And so we don't have to ask people to go from negativity to positivity, but we can ask them to go to neutral. And I'll give you 3 ideas from the world of hockey. This is, I feel so comfortable talking to you guys instead of a bunch of executives, but this is what we give leaders now. First thing is find your awareness. So John, you asked, how do we pause? Find your awareness, and you do that by, what do we do in hockey? When you don't have the puck, you recover the puck. In cognition, we recover our thinking. And that takes a trigger, right? Russell Wilson, quarterback in Seattle, his trigger is neutral zone. My trigger is go to the neutral. So we don't have to be positive. I think that's a big mistake, asking people to be positive all the time when some people have a bit of a negative bent, but we can go to neutral. So we recover the puck, we recover our thinking. Number 2 is, what do you do after you get the puck? You're in the neutral zone, you regroup the puck, right? And so what do? We regroup our thinking. And that's where we pause. And that's where we have the brainstorm, and we look at next steps, and we build a plan, a very quick plan. And then number 3 won't surprise you guys. You reattack, right? Sometimes reattacking is getting to the red line, chipping it deep, and getting a 5-man change. But recover the puck, regroup the puck, reattack, recover your cognition, recover with a trigger your thinking, regroup your thinking, use the space, and then reattack. And the reattack for me is we're taking next action, or we're taking, next focus, or whatever it is. So that's been very helpful. Final thought is, you guys were talking about on the way home, and I should have brought this up earlier, but I know John loves Carol Dweck, and so do I. I mean, she's the mindset lady that talks about fixed mindset or growth mindset, right? Here's 5 questions that Carol Dweck suggests that we ask ourselves and other people. And I'll send this to John so he can pass it out if you want it. But here's 5 questions to help get people in a growth mindset instead of having them get stuck in a fixed mindset. Number 1, what did you learn from today, from today's performance? I mean, you guys do that with your kids coming home from school, right? Number 2, what steps did you take to make yourself successful today? I love that question, because that's not about, it's not about intelligence, is it? It's not about talent. That's about effort. That's about focus. Number 3, what are some of the different strategies that you could have used? Right? I love that question. That opens things up. Number 4, how did you keep going when things got tough? Focus our kids on their resilience. Focus them on understanding that they are resilient and they did get over tough times. And then number 5, what can you learn from your opponent today? I love that question as a coach, right? What can we learn from our opponent today? And the guy, for me, guys, that was the best at that was Jacques Lemaire. Jacques Lemaire, like he actually asked questions. The only coach I've ever had that actually asked questions. Hi, Curtis. Good to see you.
Sorry, guys. I was just checking the rice here, and I just wanted to I kind of wanted to chime in a little bit on that. Been really blessed over the last year. I brought my billet on here, Yari.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Bit of a big giant, up and coming goaltender, and I think him and I. Unfortunately, this year, with the way hockey's been going, haven't had any car ride homes after games, but have had a number of car ride homes on the way to the rink or on the way back from training. And I think going back, I've been super thankful to work with Ryan on the hockey end of things in my earlier career, and then also on the business side of things, him and I have connected as well, which has been great. But the biggest thing that I've taken from it in my coaching of soccer and also being a billet dad, and thanks, Derek, for your book, Home Away from Home. I read it a number of times since being a billet, but it's just being a listening ear. And, you know, we talked about pressure and emotion, and the biggest thing that I've learned as a coach, as a billet dad, and even in business is number one, like Ryan had said, you know, what are you taking away, or how are you leaving a meeting? How are you leaving a conversation? But number one is that whole pressure versus emotion. I've kind of worked with my team on eliminating the emotion from the pressure. A lot of times we make emotional decisions, be it in sport, be it in professional business. We make emotional decisions based on the pressure that's put upon us. But if we can take a little bit of time to rely on our skill and just look at the skill that we've had to be put in that position, to be able to handle that pressure, and just remove that emotion a little bit, so that we can, you know, just rely on that pure skill that we've been given to handle that pressure. And I think that's one thing, you know, again, listening and chatting with Yari on the way to the rink and on the way home, and then even talking to some of my team members at work, their ability and their skill level to handle that pressure is so much greater if they don't let that emotion overtake their decision making, and then they can deal with that emotion on another level, right? And they can use that emotion to fuel themselves forward. And that's just something that, you know, I found has been a super huge part, is sometimes just rely on that skill and believe in ourselves, and that skill will help us overtake that pressure, and the emotion can help us fuel ourselves to that next level.
Who else would like to share a question maybe that's on your mind, something that you've experienced or would like to ask anybody on the call, guys? The mic is open here.
Johnny Blake here. I think it's an interesting, you know, balance, you know, looking at the different approaches that, you know, we kind of heard in the stories. And I think important to, you know, to take something from every one of the stories, right? And there's something unique in each one. You know, and Joe's story being, I would say, a little different than Daryl's and Ryan's, but, you know, that idea of, you know, pursuit of progress and pursuit of getting better. One thing I've been thinking a lot about the last little while is the balance that's needed in that space. You know, if we get too focused on the future, we are missing opportunities. And Daryl talked a lot about this, you know, just that opportunity where he's looking in the mirror and seeing his kids and getting that opportunity to, you know, to connect. And Ryan, you used the quote by Viktor Frankl that I use all the time, that idea of that space. And I think even when you're had times where I've been sitting with my kids after something, and I've just wanted to, you know, make that point or provide that direction. And I am getting better at giving myself that space to either, you know, rephrase or redirect, or just shut up and not say anything and just let them have that moment. I'm going to ramble here for a second, so just forgive me. But Rich Davini is a guy who's currently on the podcast trail, and he's got a book out called Attributes, and he was commander of SEAL Team 6, the group that had gone in and got Osama bin Laden. And he was talking about this idea of there being basically a resiliency baseline. And it connects well with this idea of post-game at the car ride home, that, you know, at the end of a game or at the end of a tough meeting or a negotiation or whatever it is, you'll be fatigued physically, cognitively, emotionally. You'll be under baseline. And in that moment, when the kids are getting into the car, generally they're going to be under that baseline. And you have an opportunity there either to give them that space to kind of get back to baseline, or, you know, get on top of them with the questions and the coaching. And you know, the potential is that they'd actually drop lower into that sort of negative space. So to me, that kind of connects with that idea of just giving some space. You know, maybe it is a fart joke or whatever it is. And Daryl, I laughed at that. Fart jokes always make me laugh. But, you know, allowing that time for recovery before, you know, and it might be a 24-hour rule, you know, where before you start asking those questions that Ryan talked about, because now they're, you know, back to baseline, and you can make some hay with the conversation instead of them shutting down maybe. So thanks for listening to me ramble there.
Yeah, if I could just add to that as well, with Blake and Ryan on that topic of the space. We spend a lot of time with our players talking about a focal point is the word that we use, and helping them in the midst of chaos, whether it's in a game or right now they're trying to write finals or just the pressures of life. What is your focal point? And it really stems back to, in my belief, is that that space is it's a God space. And we remind them that their identity does not come from that chaos. It doesn't come from that pressure point, that their identity and who they are is that they are a child of God, and that they perform to the best of their ability with excellence because there's an audience of one. And so if it's a face-off that they got to win, they're winning that face-off to honor God. If it's a block shot they got to make, if it's a save they got to make, if it's an exam they got to finish or a paper they got to crunch out before midnight, it's always about the audience of one. And when they get distracted, I just tell them, what's your focal point? What is going to bring you back to that space? And it's a real powerful thing that I love, even when, you know, whether it's Joe and the Riders or whether I'm with my team with the Spartans, I just really hammer home right at the beginning of that training camp. The day that they arrive, we talk about their identity, because in sports, identity is about, did you make the team? Are you the captain? You know, there's a cute girl in the stands looking at you. Like, your identity comes from everything other than really what God's created you to be. And so we just really spend a lot of time there with our athletes, and they find their sweet spot and can perform with freedom then. So quick question, Joe. Who was your favorite team when you were playing? Was it Winterpeg, Cowtown, or the Green? Come on, give us the right answer here.
You know what? I'll break it down for you. I would say Winnipeg first, just because I spent majority of my career in the CFL with the Bombers. And then as far as organization, it'll be with the Stamps. And then just kind of overall, you know, obviously the Riders got the best fans. You know, I've enjoyed my time with the Rough Riders. Too bad it ended after 1 year. I'll tell you guys what happened. So after that 2012 year, I signed a 2-year contract, and our contracts are not guaranteed. So we're about to report to camp, and one month before reporting to camp, they released me. And that's when I had a talk with myself and asked myself, like, is this what I really want in life now? To have someone else decide what I'm going to do in life. And so I've decided, you know what, I'm just going to, you know, part ways and hang up the cleats. And you know what, the thing is, at that time, I felt that I gave everything to the game, you know, with all the respect and all my passion and what I've, you know, done throughout my career. I was happy to leave. It wasn't because of injuries or anything like that. Although I was, you know, I had 4 knee surgeries. I kept on coming back and you know, because I just wanted to prove myself, right? So, yeah. So I would say, yeah, Winnipeg, just because I spent more time there. I'm sorry.
Daryl, can we bring you back into the conversation? Something that just entered my mind was, with this plane ride home focus or car ride home focus, where are we able to model the word acceptance? I think we all could probably name one or two people right now that are in our lives, in our sphere of influence, that are struggling. There's a lot of pressure around us right now. Let's just acknowledge that. We need people's help. And in that, sometimes when the pressure is too great, we'll turn to something that's just unhealthy. Daryl, maybe you can share with us, and I hate to put you on the spot, but you're world class and you'll be able to handle it. Maybe you can share with us a little bit inside your family, with the decision where there's two ways to go, and then deciding to accept and go with that decision. I know with the opportunity for UMass, there was a number of teams interested, and you were there as a listening ear for Brendan. And then just recently with Hockey Canada and the other opportunity, how can we learn about that word acceptance and how we can share and help those people around us where, we're never going to make the best decision every day, but in that, I think we're learning about, that journey as we're able to listen and then speak into those people with respect. Daryl, do you understand the question? Can you share with it?
I'll try, John. I think I understand it, but if I'm going off track, let me know. You know what? I think part of those decision making, as a family, and having three kids go through some of the things that we're going through, I think the key is being able to at least have a conversation. I think there's a lot of families out there today that, like you said, different growing up environments where people go to work, both the wife and husband go to work, come home, make supper, kids have one activity, and that's the day. And so we are fortunate enough to at least be able to have some conversations of what our kids, what excited them, what were some of their challenges. They didn't confide in us and everything. Kids don't. But I think at least being able to listen and help them, as I said, they make decisions. They want to, and I think one of the key things I said earlier is that we never want them to make mistakes. And I think making some mistakes, hopefully they're not big ones, is what you're going to learn from. And so, as I said, my son had different opportunities. And if he would have went to a different school, maybe his whole life would have been different than it is today. But he has chosen, hey, this is what I chose. These are the decisions that I've made. And you move on from them, right? And you learn from them, and you try to say, what is the good things out of here? And if I'm making my next decision from my past, what has helped me make the decisions that I'm making today? So I don't know if I answered your question, John, but I think part of it is just as a coach, all of our kids have had coaches that you're like, holy smokes, how did that guy become a coach, or how did that person become a coach? And I think, as I said before, is having that listening skill and understanding where you can help them is part of this.
Thanks, Daryl.
Johnny, I heard a quote lately, and it was talking about this idea of decisions, and it said, and this is, I kind of rephrased it, but hopefully this makes sense. It said, don't worry about if you made the right choice, worry about making your choice right. So, that idea of whether you're choosing a job or a school or, hiring somebody or cutting a player, whatever the case is, accepting the choice that you made, but in that choice, putting plans in place so that it's going to be a successful one, right? We can get hung up a lot of times on the choice, and then we're looking backwards and missing out on opportunities to progress and move forward.
Hey, Blake, Daryl here. Just, I think, one of the key things that you said is people get paralyzed not making a choice. And I think, like you said, every choice isn't right, but unless you're willing to make those choices, there's no risk, no reward, right?
Daryl, I don't know what your profession is right now, but you could fall into a marriage counselor. Sounds like you. My wife, when she's going through any problems, I want to solve them right away, and she's saying, "I just want you to listen and say you understand." So, your listening comment just to the generation that we're coaching, I think, is really valid, and there's a lot of truth in that. We had Ryan speak to our team earlier on this year, and the one thing that we've really took from that was challenging our guys. How are we leaving our conversation, especially through this COVID time when guys are struggling? And so it was really valuable to have Ryan speak to our group. My question is for Joe. Joe, are you still here? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Yeah. So it's not so much on the topic we've been on tonight, but I don't often get a chance to pick a football player's brain. I guess, us coaches in hockey, at least you're used to managing 25 guys. And as far as keeping unity, for the most part, it's pretty easy, not easy to do, but it's attainable. When you're looking at a roster the size of football and you think about those coaches you played for, was there a guy that had the ability to really draw unity into a team with such large numbers? Or did you feel that that your O-line was on a different page than another part of the team?
That's a great question. I think just kind of growing up, like you guys grew up playing hockey, right? I grew up playing football, obviously, and I think you're taught at a very young age how to become a leader. Everybody wants to become the team captain and the leader. When you step on that field, and every team that you go to and play for, you can already tell who the leaders are, whether they're going to be, a very talkative leader, very outspoken, or lead by example kind of leader. You can just tell, and you can, I don't know, I think it's just a vibe that you can get. For me, I think I hate talking about myself, and I think I was born to be a leader, but in a quiet way, to lead by example. I would always talk with my pads. You know what I mean? So I always make plays out there, and that's how I would lead my team. I would never celebrate, hardly celebrate. I wasn't very flashy. I was out there to do one job, play my position and make plays when it comes to my way. Do my part, because that's the thing. Everybody has a part to do on the field as far as football. You belong somewhere. When that ball hikes, whether it's going to be a pass or a run, for a run, everybody got a gap. You miss that assignment, it throws the whole defense off. So someone has to make a play, not only do their job, but also somebody else's job. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I just feel like when you step on the field or on the ice, you can tell already who the leaders are, if that makes any sense to you guys.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Hey, to follow that up, would you say that any of your head coaches did a really good job of uniting your entire group, or was, does that make sense?
Yeah, there sometimes, but I think it's more of a locker room thing than a coach thing. A coach can just navigate, right? And use whoever that may be, the leader, as like a chess piece. But the thing is, if you lose that locker room, you don't have a team, because then that's where you create separation between everybody. Now you have cliques, and that's what you don't want in a locker room. You do not want, there will always be cliques, right? But then you want to make sure that everybody belongs, under one roof, like, one heartbeat, right? Mm-hmm. But if you create, I'm trying to figure this out. These are good questions, and I'm trying to think and put into words where you guys can understand where I'm coming from as a football player. Let me get back to that, if you guys don't mind waiting.
Yeah, 100%, Joe. While we have a little bit of space, Blake, can you just give it 15 seconds, 20 seconds on what you've been doing with a growth mindset lately? So proud of you, buddy.
Just figuring out the mute button. Yeah, thanks, Johnny. Yeah, the last year has been interesting, an opportunity where I live in Olds, which is a couple hours, about an hour from Calgary, work in downtown Calgary, and daily would be back and forth on the QE2. With COVID, we've been working at home, and it's brought a lot more time and space in a guy's day to grow and to learn. A few years ago, I'd started a program called Thrive Sport Project, and we were working with associations and coaches and parents talking about the environments that we're creating within our sport culture. The environments that we're creating on the car ride home. And over time, the conversations progressed a lot more towards the athletes. I played for 3 years in the CFL. I had one catch for 4 yards, so my career stats are not mind-blowing by any means. And I also had mental illness struggles. So overlapping the psychology aspect with the sport aspect, and now just a layer around my life and my life experience, have put together a program around mental fitness for athletes. So just really getting that off the ground. Our first program will open up here May 1. So it's been really taking a bunch of experience and learning, putting it into a package for athletes. And I'm fired up about it. So thanks for giving me a chance to talk about it, John.
Right on, Blake. Really appreciate it. Joe, can we pass the mic back to you, brother?
Yes, sir. What's up, man?
Hey, Johnny, one thing I would say just to help Joe out, thinking about being on a football team. So when I was with the Stamps, it's interesting. I was there for 3 years. We had 3 different coaches. So we had Jim Barker was there. Matt Dunnigan came in the second year, and then Tom Higgins was there my last year. So a real wide range of characters in that mix. But the size of the team, one of the things Joe talked about this, the locker room being key, and that leadership group being key, being that conduit from the coaches, into the actual lockers themselves. But also you did see a wide diversity of personalities. Like you can tell Joe has a linebacker personality. He talks with his pads, and I 100% believe he talks with his pads. I played receiver, Kid from Rocky Mountain House, 5,000 people, grew up in a small town. So you did have to have diversity, I felt, in that coaching staff to be able to intermingle and to connect and create a sense of belonging, across a wide spectrum of personalities and athletes and connection points. So.
For you people that, for the guys that don't know Brad Cole, man, he's another one of my heroes with a growth mindset who's been coaching at Briarcrest lately, the men's Clipper hockey team. And is it ever cool when we're able to be in an environment, we're getting paid to do something, but we have fun going to work? And that's been something I've been trying to think about a little bit more of even though there's a lot of pressure around us, we all know what the 6 o'clock news says. How can we, within our sphere of influence, help people have more fun? And thanks to Ryan Walter, he's really encouraged me this past year. Ryan, can you share for like 30 seconds, something that we're going to be doing together around resiliency training? And then maybe we can open it up for maybe 2 or 3 more questions, and then we'll probably off to the coffee pot for another cup of coffee.
Thanks, John. Yeah, great to be with everybody. Loved Barrett. I loved your focal point idea, and just all the comments here are really good. As a pro athlete, I used to struggle with Matthew 6:1, right? Who's giving you the applause? Are you getting it from men, or are you getting it from God? And it was, those are really interesting growth times. And I'm 62, guys. I'm a little farther down the road. I got lots of gray hair, and just know that they don't stop, right? Like it's the journey. We're all on the journey here. You don't get to 62 and get it figured out. That's for sure. What John and I are going to do, I'm running a little program. This is a bit of a give for us. Jenny and I really wanted to give to people around COVID and around resiliency and just this idea of mental toughness. So we've put together a quick little program. It's going to run 10 a.m. Mountain. John, make sure I'm right there. 10 a.m. Mountain. We're going to start on the 15th of April, and it'll run. It won't be consecutive Thursdays, but it'll run, a number of Thursdays through April and May. So there'll be 5 key training sessions on Thursdays, and they'll just run for 50 minutes. Just a quick introduction. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 5 models. We've built sort of 5 models around resiliency and team and, things like hope, trust, and different parts of sort of what people need to focus on to stay resilient and to stay upbeat during this time. So that'll happen over the next number of months through April and May. And what we've done is we've tried to keep the price down. I think it's under $40 per session for the 50-minute session. So typically corporate America is paying a lot more for that, but our goal was just to try to make it accessible to everybody. And we've run a couple of teams through it, and they've really had good success. Really, have enjoyed the benefits. And now we're with one of our teams, we're actually moving on to our 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 series. So we'll do another 5 series coming up. We call it the first round of the playoffs. And so we go to game 5, and then the second round is we're hoping to just go to game 5 too. So that's John's got that link, but if you're interested, love to have your input. Try to make it very interactive, and it's a quick 50 minutes on a Thursday morning.
Right on, Coach. That's great. Thanks, Rye, for that. Guys, I say 2 or 3 more questions. We have so many awesome people on this call. So honored to have Dave Hunter a part of things, for him to make time. We all know the history of the Hunter family, of Dave and what Mark's done, and Dale. They show people how to play the game the right way. And in that, is there 2 or 3 more questions? Guys around this theme, the car ride home, the plane ride home, that you may have a question for somebody on this call where we can keep the discussion going. Well, I have one more question, guys, before we say goodbye. When's the last time you had a coffee or maybe a tasty glass of red wine and you were talking to your wife or talking to a good friend and you asked, who do you know I should know? I think it's a good question. And in that, we all know, really good people, but I think the question's asked because we don't know how much time we have. And I really appreciate everybody making time, be intentional to be a part of this call and listening, and to the leaders that shared and the time that they put in to share with professionalism. But maybe it's a question we take with ourselves moving forward. Of those people we know, who do they know that we should know? And could that person just be another, bright light in our life to encourage us? They may just remind us to, keep going, or they may have a really good question for us that's going to stir, more dialogue, which we've talked about today, the car ride home, the plane ride home, as Ryan shared, that space. Daryl shared about, are we listening attentively? Joe and sharing, where are we adding the respect factor? We need to earn things, and bringing that all together, finding space to where we're celebrating those situations. So guys, let's close this call down. We did record it, so if somebody wants it, I can easily send it to them. If anybody has questions about joining Ryan Walters' resiliency training, I can send you a link. If anybody has any more want more information from Coach Blake Mahan from Thrive Sports Projects, I'd love to connect you. Coach Daryl Baxandall is also working on something really neat. He has worked the last 4 years on developing a program to help families understand the process to reach NCAA or CIS and the educational possibilities. And long story short, I think we're going to try to do this every 6 weeks. So may the wind be at your back. And guys, I really appreciate making time to be a part of this cool evening. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, good to see
Thanks,
you.
John. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
Hey, Army.
Yeah, talk to me.
Hey, buddy. NCAA. That link. Can you send me that for Yari and his family, please?
You bet. I can connect you with Coach Baxandall, and you guys can have some dialogue back and forth.
And you'll be able to watch his 6'4" frame in Drayton Valley next year.
All right, the HHL. Can't wait.
All right. Thanks, Army.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Joe.
Have a good night, guys.
Hey, Johnny, I'll take
You're
that.
welcome. Thanks, guys.
Hey, McAway.
Hey, I take that link too.
Okay.
My daughter's going to Trinity actually next year for play some soccer. So
Awesome.
Right on, man. Great to see you, pal. You're a great line mate.
yeah, good times.
Thanks, Brewster.
Thanks, Cropper. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks a lot. See you later.
Duffs, have a good night.
Great to see you, O-Ring. We got to connect here soon, eh, pal?